Welcome back to the Heart of Poland programme on our endless and impossible search to discover the heart of Poland. Now, few things can be more important than man's historic connection to that most important of insects, bees. And yet I was amazed to discover our next guest and what he's doing on the rooftops of Warsaw. Welcome, Kamil Baj, to the Heart of Poland programme. I was totally fascinated by your story, and you're shortly going to explain it, but I'm going to introduce you maybe as the owner of Pszczelarium, which I don't think it can be translated in English. It means basically bee.
We've once tried to translate it, and we came across a new word, apisarium, but maybe it doesn't even ring a bell for...
Let's put it this way, you're all about bees.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you immediately to just show us the incredible personal item you brought with us. So what is this?
Yeah, this is a skep beehive, which must have been used by my great-grandfather probably like 130 years ago maybe. So it's an item we found with my father in, let's say, an old barn on the farm that's been a part of my family through maybe 2 or 3 centuries already. So this is like...
what was it used for?
It was used for keeping bees inside. So you had actually the bee family living inside, the combs inside, they built themselves. It was put on some, let's say, planks, like a plain place, and the bees were actually able to leave the skep hive from here. Yeah, so
and the queen bee is also inside there somewhere in the center.
Inside, so when I mean family, I mean one queen and a lot of workers and maybe a couple of drones. Yes.
Yeah.
So this was the way of keeping bees those times, maybe even through 5-6 centuries before. Not only in Poland, but most of Europe. So basically it's made of straw, and this is probably thin willow branches that put the straw together, and it was, of course, handmade. And this year I was trying to make my own skep beehive. I'm not yet finished, but I will probably try to...
But based on this particular one?
Based on this, based on the knowledge, based on, let's say, the experiences of even UK beekeepers, because I think even on social media there is an English, let's say, a short movie showing the traditional skep beekeeping in maybe in the 70s, 1970s. So it was cultivated until at least 70s.
So this is a family heirloom. It's an item you've had in your family. How did you discover this? You found it at the back of the barn?
There is an old barn on the farm, and there's a lot of things inside. I cannot even imagine how many things there are. And just by chance, I came across, or my father actually came across this, looking for something else, and it was probably maybe 10 or 15 years ago when he found it. It was not for me. For me, it was not obvious at the time that it's been made for the bees. But the more I was involved with the bees, the more I understood. It came very obvious that this was this hive that they used probably in every bigger farm that time.
So beekeeping runs in the family. You mentioned you can trace it back to 200 years, was it, or longer?
Well, I could suspect so, but the obvious, let's say, proof is 130 years old.
Yeah. But one thing's for sure is that your grandparents and your parents have been interested in beekeeping, and I understand that both your grandfathers were beekeepers.
For sure, my great-grandparent from my mother's side, and for sure my grandparent from my father's side, who actually was a master beekeeper, had the document, the paper that certified that he's a master beekeeper. He had, when my father was a youngster, he had a couple of hives, but then he had to give up, maybe because of the age and health. So I don't remember him having bees, but I remember my father making his first beehives in 1996.
Now, for most city people, the idea of beekeeping is kind of strange. It sounds like not very many people would do it. What does beekeeping look like in Poland? Is it a popular pastime? Is it something you see a lot on farms?
Most of the beekeepers are like already retired people who have the bees near their home, who do it as a hobby and have, let's say 20 up to 30 maximum beehives. This is like 60% of the beekeepers in Poland, of the bees in Poland. And there's like 40%, it's more professional beekeeping, where you have to, let's say, earn a living, and you have to go into very large apiaries, mostly 200 plus. The biggest apiary in Poland has around 2,000 or 3,000 hives, which obviously are not kept in one place.
Yes.
Because it's not possible for bees to go for a forage in one place in such numbers, but they move around bees in some like 50 parts, so actually 50 smaller apiaries moving around in a radius of maybe 200 kilometers even. So actually the beekeeping is very much appreciated, I would say, in Poland, because most of the people have this image of, I don't know, an uncle or a grandparent having bees near their home when they were little children. They remember how they harvested the honey. So very good, let's say, impressions about the bees and very good memories of many, many people.
Now, Kamil, I have never raised an apiary or a hive of any kind, but I have read a couple of books on the subject of beekeeping. Mm-hmm. And one thing I know is when you're interested in bees, you love beekeeping. It becomes like a passion. Is it your passion? Is it something that just dominates your life?
It's been a passion for around 22 years now. So I started my passion from the very first moment my father put the first bee family into his first beehive. So it was this 1996 that I remember so much when at this farm the first two hives appeared. So this was the start for me. I was I was a teenager at that time, so I first helped in this apiary, then I got so much interest. Even working in Warsaw, I traveled every 2 weeks to my parents to help in the apiary, in the farm, but apiary mostly. And I got so much interest that 5 years ago I thought maybe I should start my own apiary and try to do it totally on my own, because it's the best, actually the best way to learn everything, not to help somebody, because you will never have like 100% of responsibility. So the best way is to start on your own, actually.
But what was it, if you could describe your feelings at that time? Because for many people, bees, they feel like they're going to be stung. You know, it's kind of scary because you've got this mass there on the hive. Mm-hmm. What was it that just captured you?
I had the same feelings at the very beginning. I was, you know, when I approached the bees, I was fascinated, but at the same time I was, you know, stressed, I would say, because at the same time you see thousands of insects in one place, and you didn't even realize how it looks. So it was a big impression for me. I was also, let's say, how to say, I was also prone to the venom of the bees. So when one bee stung me in the finger, I got my hand. I got my hand very, how to say in English?
It's swollen, yeah. It's
swollen,
yeah,
yes. Yeah. Even my eyes, my face.
This is an unfortunate allergy to have, yeah.
The allergy to the bees' venom, which I had at the beginning, and it took me 4 years of actually doing this beekeeping and being stung from time to time to get less and less allergic to the moment when I had just a trace and no suffocation.
So how many times have you been stung? Can you guess?
I never counted this, but I would, I can probably say that maybe it was 6 to 7, maybe 1,100 times during those 22 years. Because almost every time,
that's a lot.
Because almost every time that you spent in the apiary working with the hives, with the bees, you actually, it's easy to get stung, especially when you don't have a beekeeping veil and you don't use gloves, which I don't do because of my, let's say, idea of having the most, let's say, the mildest, the calmest bees that can possibly be. So I don't use the hat most of the time, and I don't use my gloves most of the time.
Do you smoke your bees to calm
I
them
smoke
down?
the bees. I use the smoker, but as little as possible because it doesn't have a good influence. But if I don't use veil, from time to time, a bee can even sting me near my eye or near my nose and somewhere else.
So for most people, that's quite a terrifying thought. I think 6,000 or 7,000 stings is a really terrifying thought, obviously over the course of 22 years. Where's the pleasure? Is the pleasure just in the honey, is in the end product, or is it in seeing this colony survive and grow and change?
Well, I think the pleasure is basically being close to the nature, because it's so much complicated organism, the bee family, that you get fascination about how they live, and you feel the closeness to the nature. You can actually see that they can manage themselves from A to Z. So they build the wax combs by themselves. They produce everything they need. They gather everything they need from the environment around. So they are perfectly sustainable, let's say, organisms. And the family, even though it's made of, let's say, 50,000 bees, the individual bees, it works like a one brain, one organism, one entity. So this is fascination I have from working with the bees, and hopefully it won't go away. And until now, it doesn't. So
If you've been stung 6,000 or 7,000 times, I can pretty much guarantee you that it's not going to go away. You must like what you do. So you, a few years ago, took the decision to leave your corporate stable job to do the Pszczelarium project full time. Probably a couple of people thought that was a little bit crazy.
Everybody, including my parents. And they were actually the people that tried the hardest possible ways to lead me away from this idea. Because they knew that being a beekeeper, especially in Poland, where the honey is not highly valuated in terms of financial, of course, in financial terms. So they tried to make me stay with my full-time employment, not to engage in any way in the beekeeping. So I was kind of ambitious to also show them that it's possible to do something with the beekeeping which can give you the way to live and to sustain your family and to give you financial, let's say, resources to at least go through the year or two doing the bees.
Yeah, we're gonna break down what it is that you do, because you do quite a lot of stuff, and get onto the main matter in a second. But I'm curious because there are a lot of people stuck in corporate jobs in Poland, maybe with a personal passion that they have. Maybe they can't see a business in it yet. What would you say to those people if you could speak to them? Because you've done it. You've actually done it. You're still here. You're smiling. You look happy. You're doing what you love.
I don't have like a very clear idea what to advise, because it's not a pink picture. It's not a lovely life that I have after leaving corporation. It's not like that. There are pros and cons of being in the corporate world, to have full-time employment, and there's a lot of stress outside. I truly had maybe like a five or six, let's say, crises during those 2 years or 3 years, last 3 years, when I totally engaged in Pszczelarium. It was also hard because I spent almost like 24 hours a day with my wife, who is also creating Pszczelarium. So that happens not very
Did she discover it through you? Is that, or how did you?
Well, I was the idea giver, let's say. I gave the idea. She was very eager to help me with that. So actually, she left her full-time employment 1 year after me, but she's never been a beekeeper. She's doing, let's say, the marketing, the administration, all this work that you cannot see from the very beginning, just looking at Facebook or looking at our workshop. You don't see that, but it's a very important job.
So it's a family-run business, and even your daughter Nina gets involved.
Well, yeah,
from
time to time. Yes, she was maybe when she had 1 or 2 months, just fresh toddler. She stayed at the apiary with me. I was doing some jobs. She was in the, how to say, the. Anyway, she was covered with the veil, so that I'm 100%.
The crib, yeah,
the crib.
yeah.
The crib was covered with the veil, so there was like 100%. I was sure that the bees won't go inside, but she was able to already to hold a comb with the bees. It was like 6 months ago when she had 4 years old. So, but I'm not eager to make her a beekeeper at any point, because it's a really physically demanding job.
Yeah, and that's what I want to get onto now. So you do a number of things within Pszczelarium, and the thing which I think is most interesting is these rooftop hives that you have around Warsaw, and you're one of a number of beekeepers, I believe, in Warsaw that are doing this for the first time on the Warsaw skyline. We'll now find beehives. So how does that look, and where are these hives, and should we be scared walking down the street? We're going to get stung.
So let me start with saying that Pszczelarium started with 10 hives in 2014 in Warsaw. Now, 4 years after, we have 120 hives in Warsaw, and 30 more hives in Gdańsk, Katowice, Lublin, Wrocław, Poznań. So we have, let's say, proliferated this idea into different cities in Poland, because when we started, it was a very fresh idea. Almost nobody knew about this. Contrary, London was probably the most advanced urban beekeeping place in Europe, because I guess from 80s, 90s, there was this movement of urban beekeeping, but in Poland, we actually took this idea and bring it to Poland. So when the people were hearing that there are bees in Warsaw, actually I thought they would be very reluctant to this idea, they will be very much afraid, but to be honest, we haven't heard almost any complaint throughout these 4 years. The people are really fascinated about this idea. They're even happy to have the bees in Warsaw. Of course, we do it in the way to keep people safe, because if you do it not professionally, if you, let's say, misregard the rules of beekeeping, of good beekeeping, then you can make a situation where the people would have too close contact with the hives, and potentially there is a risk of being stung. So you have to first be very much aware of where you put those hives, if it's a safe place for the people, secondly, if it's a good place for the bees, and third thing we pay attention to is if I'm or my or my employee is able to service the hive, because not every place is good for the, let's say, for the spine of the beekeeper.
So well, I can believe that. So what makes the rooftop of a shopping centre a good place then? Because there's no flowers up there, are there?
Well, you will be surprised, because our Arcadia shopping mall has 2 hectares, or let's say 20,000 square meters of green roof, which is actually really green. And there are even flowers that bees can forage on. So nobody knows, actually, going to those shopping malls, that above them there is this green roof. But it's actually there. I've seen it because the bees are there. So the roof is actually big. There is a place where no technical service goes. So no technician would be actually will not experience the risk of being stung. So it's a safe place for the people, and it's a good place for the bees, because not only they forage on those flowers on the rooftop, but they fly even 5 to 6 kilometers from the hive to visit as many flowers as possible, to collect as much honey as possible. So they collect, they eat throughout the year. One family eats 100 kilograms of honey.
Yeah.
And we collect, let's say, a surplus of those which the bees don't actually need.
Now, again, talking about misconceptions here, most people think, well, maybe that's going to taste a bit strange because it's not out in the countryside, in the fields, in nature. I'm reliably informed, and in fact, I have already tried the Stellarium honey, that it's quite unique flavour and in some respects even better than the kind of stuff you can get out in the countryside. Why is that?
Well, it's let's say it's a paradox of nowadays, of these times, because if you imagine the city, most people have this imagination of a dirty space with a lot of smoke, which is partly true, especially in Warsaw, especially in Polish cities during winter, yes, where many people uses coal and there's a horrible smoke here in Warsaw, for example. Well, Warsaw is not even the worst example, yes, because most of the city relies on the, let's say,
Central heating.
Central heating. But it's partially true, because if you see the smoke alerts during summer, spring, you actually see green color. So the level of contamination during spring and summer, where the bees are active and the flowers are blossoming, is really really small.
Yes.
And it does not influence honey and does not influence the bees, because, and we are sure about that, because we have examined the honey very carefully and examined the bees in 2014 when we had the first forage. We also had, this question mark if it's going really to be good honey. So we examined the honey for hydrocarbons, for let's say lead, and different other pierwiastki.
Contaminations.
Contaminations, let's say, yes. So when we received the results, we were not surprised, because we knew the same result from London, Chicago. We contacted New York, so everybody said, you don't have to worry, this is the pure honey. You will see it will be clear, very clear honey. And it came true, because it showed no lead contamination, no hydrocarbons and whatsoever.
Yeah.
So and it's logic, in fact, because I told you about the smoke, but also you see the lead some 30 years ago was taken from the fumes of the car, the gasoline, yes, had lead. And yes. 20 years ago it was banned from the gasoline. There is no contamination now coming into the cities, new contamination. So it's the same with, let's say, big plants that produced some contaminations 30 years ago. Now they moved either from Poland, or they moved from the city, or they put some really good control over their emissions. So the paradox, the city is even cleaner now than agricultural land, because when the farmers spray the crops, they sometimes misuse the sprays, and when they spray the blossoming flowers, then there is a high risk that it contaminates the honey, or at least kills even the bees.
So above our heads, whenever you come to Poland, you're going to have, in many cities across the country, bees flying around doing their busy bee work. You also run workshops as well. Just talk us through that. What does that look like, and what is the purpose of those workshops?
Well, it was kind of natural to start courses and workshops, because when we had this apiary, or even more than one, we started with. So we had hives. We had to have the workshop, some kind of workshop. When we had some kind of workshop, then the people started to come to ask. They got interested in the topic, so it was natural for us to start the beekeeping course. So In 2015, we ran the first one. We took the excursions of children from nearby kindergarten and school to the apiary. So it started very naturally. Now probably this year we had like several hundreds of people on our courses, different courses, because we not only run courses near our main workshop, but we also run a special apiary for Wilanów, dzielnica Wilanów.
So, district in Warsaw.
District of Wilanów in Warsaw, which is open for everybody who wants to, let's say, enter this apiary. And we run also courses for Żoliborz district in Warsaw. We sometimes even travel with the bees to the kindergartens to give them a lecture, or rather some kind of show, let's say, with the bees, because with small children it's better not to put slides with the text. Rather, you have to work with your senses.
Yeah. Kamil, we're going to come to the end of the show, unfortunately. I think I could talk to you for a lot longer. I just wonder, as you look at that connection to the past, how do you feel now about the future of Poland? This is a general question. What do you wish, for example, to your young daughter Nina going forward for Poland's future?
Well, to be honest, I'm sometimes thinking about the, let's say, big picture of what we do with the environment, with the planet, because I'm seeing the impact of that on the bees. So thinking about my daughter, I always think about what would be the environment she will be living in 20, 30 years, especially because of the climate change and so on. So I'm not having an ambition to make her a beekeeper. I'm not having an ambition of any kind of work for her, but I'm always trying to do my best to sustain whatever is possible to sustain in the environment. And I hope that bringing bees to the city will bring a lot of ideas to the people, because it will not save the planet. Having bees in the city is not a solution for our problems. It will hopefully educate people more. It will make them think about what grows around. It will make them think about what is the condition of the animals around us. And this is my, let's say, ambition of doing this in Poland and in Warsaw especially.
And do you work 7 days a week?
Unfortunately, this is my problem. Yes, when you have your own business, you have to, or no, you don't have to, but I still work too much, to be honest.
Yeah. That's the passion that we're looking to uncover on the Heart of Poland programme. People doing amazing things and leading very interesting lives. And Kamil, I thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Do make sure that you share this programme wherever you find it, on any channel that you get. Make sure you send it on to anyone who's interested in finding out more about the country of Poland. Kamil, you've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for bringing on this slice of history, and thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.